Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help. And King of Floors, your vinyl, laminate, and engineered flooring superstore.
Donnie and Dolly, the team, presented by Able Auctions and King of Floors. All of our guests today, which of course is Thursday, sponsored by White Spot, also sponsors of our poll question. Black truffle cheese and mushroom burger. Oh yeah, try White Spot's new adventurous burger lineup. After all, burgers are kind of our thing. On now for a limited time at White Spot. We'll see you soon as we bring in John Shannon. John, thanks for doing this. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, boys. Oh, so good.
Ah, nice. Very good. The White Spot reference.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think you got it. Hey, John, you being the longtime television executive, producer, director, all of that, you did everything. Is the NHL in good hands with ESPN and TNT?
I think they are, and I took my time thinking that because when you leave somebody after being with them for 10 years. There are going to be some bumps in the road.
Yep.
There are going to be some mistakes made. We've already seen one by Turner.
Yes.
With the shot of Andrew Ference on the graphic
right.
as opposed to Connor McDavid. NBC did a really good job. I would tell you, I think they did a better job for hockey fans in the United States than the company that does hockey in Canada. They did a lot of games. They did a lot of pregame shows, a lot of postgame shows, a ton of coverage. NBC was a good partner and will be a good partner for the rest of the year. But quite frankly, they weren't going to pay anywhere near the amount of money that the NHL felt they could get from someone else. They got more than double from ESPN for what NBC paid the last time, and then they got more than double from Turner what NBC was prepared to pay for the smaller package. So it had to happen. We all know that ESPN's a talented place. If you're a basketball fan, you know how good and talented the people are at Turner with what they can do with production. So my answer is yes, they are in good hands, but it's not going to be perfect right on the first night because there's going to have to be a learning curve.
I don't want to get you into trouble, John, but alluding to something you just said there, what could Sportsnet do better with its coverage?
Well, on a regional basis, I don't like when we're talking about what happens for the Canucks. I don't think you can do more. I think what John and Murph do is great, but I think on the national stage. But at the same time, I'd like to see, in Vancouver, I'd like to see more pregame shows for the Canucks. I'd like to see more postgame coverage for the Canucks. I'd like to see a ton more Canuck coverage on Sportsnet Pacific. That's what I really would like to see. And it's not as if they don't have the time. They do have the time to do it. So by the way, these are things that I said to them when I worked there. That we have, the whole concept. I believe it or not, way back when, Donnie, I was part of the original group that put the S3 package together at CTV. That was supposed to be the name of the channel, S3, because it was supposed to be national, regional, and local sports. I was part of the original group that put that package together, and the whole concept was that it was going to be wall-to-wall Canucks on a Canuck night. So from that perspective, I think Rogers could do a better job, not with their game coverage, but with their shoulder programming and with dealing with what the Canucks do. And I think they could do the same in Alberta, and I think they could do the same in Southern Ontario with the Maple Leafs.
You know how I feel about that. I agree with everything you just said, John. Hey, switching gears now. The Sens take 3 of 4 against the Canucks, 6-3 Ottawa victory last night. Does that say more? Does all that say more about the Senators or more about the Canucks?
It's funny. After the 3-0 goal, I was going to be quick on the Twitter, like our buddy Dollawall there, and say, the Canucks have hit the wall. Because after 10 days of emotion and the games that needed to be played, you could just see the sag. And I mean, you heard Travis say it, emotionally and physically drained. And I thought they were done at 3-0, and hence the timeout. And then really they were done at 3-0. They were done. But at the same time, the team on the other side is going to be really good for a long time. Brady Tkachuk has become one of my favorite players in the game. Yep. He is so much fun. I think he's better than his brother. I think he's better than Matthew. And he's a leader. He's personable. He's physical. He's got some finesse. Brady Tkachuk's the real deal.
Yeah, John, I'm going to agree with you. I just love Brady Tkachuk. The moment he stepped into the NHL, he's just been a beast. Really big difference maker at a young age. Canucks look tired physically and mentally. John Travis Green said last night, so Cole Lynn's going to go in, Chatfield's going to go in. They didn't use COVID as an excuse. Tyler Myers was asked, and he said, no, we just bad puck management. But do they look like a tired team to you?
Couple guys do. Like you guys see them more than I do, and obviously closer than I do. But Quinn Hughes really looks spent. The second and third goals to me, Quinn Hughes looked like, what am I doing out here? And that has to be a concern when one of your best finesse players and one of your best defensemen just is having a tough time coping. And we obviously know that Quinn had a tough time with the virus during that 22 or 23 day span. But I just, and it's not an excuse, but what those guys, what they have been through, I don't wish on anybody. And for them to come back and play like they did in those two games against Toronto, that was almost for me the season. And I think you can see it on most of their faces that, oh my goodness gracious, we can't, I'm not sure we can bring it one more time. And even though they're professional athletes, they're getting paid a lot of money, even though it's only 72% of their contracts. But you can see how taxing it has been on them.
Look into your crystal ball. We got a coach here that's not signed. We got a GM who could be in trouble if they don't make the playoffs. Do you see major changes out in Vancouver, or do you see minor?
Well, we know that Travis, obviously, and Rick, I think you've reported it too, that Travis does have an offer now. It may not be the offer he wants, but Travis does have an offer. And I do think that he comes back. I think that the issue might be Jim at this point. And if the organization, if there are some people within the organization in and around ownership that feel strongly, then it wouldn't be surprised me if there's some discussions about it. But at the same time, how can you pick on Jim Benning when Pettersson hasn't played? How can you Thatcher Demko was a draft pick of Jim Benning, and he's the future, and he is a good goaltender. This guy has done some good stuff, and this is just a strange and awful and ugly year. And it would be terrible if the decisions were made on a year that, Jim Benning didn't have very much control of.
One more, John. Vegas beats Colorado 5-2 last night. We've talked about this last week, I believe, Rick. Those two teams seem destined to meet in the playoffs. Vegas on top of the overall standings for whatever that's worth in this strange season. But who would win that playoff series, Vegas, Colorado?
Well, I am going to go with Vegas, and now you're starting to look. Nathan McKinnon's the best player on the ice when the two teams play, but Alex Pietrangelo is the best defenseman, and Marc-Andre Fleury is the best goaltender. And Vegas's depth at forward is going to put them in pretty good stead. Colorado has to get Rantanen back and healthy. That's an issue. They have to make sure Philip Grubauer is 100% before the playoffs. Then it's going to be different, but. Right now, I think you'd have to go with Vegas because of their depth and because of those two players that I mentioned.
John, outstanding. We'll talk to you next Thursday. Thanks so much.
And by the way, I rented my first television from Granada.
There you go.
Wow.
See?
When I was going to University of British Columbia, and I was the only guy in the frat house that had a color TV. How's that?